Welcome to Scorched Earth and a general mid-month reading for the sign of Aries, Sun, Moon or Ascendant. So I'm keeping these nice and short because they just cover a 2-week period from the 15th to the 30th of June. And to that end, I'm just going to pull 3 cards for your current energy, 3 cards for what's coming towards you, and 3 cards of advice. So if you can't ease the way for you ever so slightly. Do I need to tell you anything? Oh, Mercury Retrograde is upon us, as always. Well, 3 times a year or so, anyway. It's nothing to be afraid of, just, basic retrograde advice. Try not to buy anything too big, cars, houses, that sort of thing. Try not to sign any contracts for stuff, but if you have to, then double check and triple check the small print, right? It's going to save you a lot of time further down the line if you can identify things that might not be as you want them. Get a second opinion, something like that. Back up all of your stuff as well, because technology tends to go a little bit awry. And be aware of difficulties in communication. Mercury rules communication, and when it goes into retrograde, sometimes we can't get our words out properly. Sometimes we have difficulties making ourselves understood. Sometimes we assume people understand things and they actually don't. Sometimes we take them the wrong way. Right? Just be careful. Right? Say only what you mean and mean what you say and all that. So let's get some cards for you. Can I have 3 cards for Aries, please, for June? Okay. Cards for Aries, please. Fucking hell. Cards for Aries. Ooh. Okay. And another card for Aries. Wow. Okay. Right. At the bottom of the deck, we've got the 2 of Pentacles. That talks about balance. It talks about achieving balance, or the need to achieve balance. That's underneath that. And the Sun. So I think you got on top of this, right? If you were one of the people who was struggling to kind of get somebody on board with you last month, and that seemed to be the general energy. Oh, it wasn't last month, actually. It was beginning of this month. It seems like you're kind of getting on top of that now, right? The balance is occurring. We're not yet at the 3 of Pentacles, which would be the cooperation and collaboration, but the balance is there, right? I should say it was followed by the Sun. Positive. So the reason that I smirked is because the first card is the Fool, and that for me is the card of Aries, right? It's also the card of making a new start. It's treading a new path that you have not gone down before. And Aries, that is what you are all about, right? You love that shit. You kind of had, in the last reading, you kind of hit a bit of a wall because you needed somebody else to be on board with you with this, and they kind of weren't in the way that you were anticipating, right? But we're back to full energy. We're back to where you should be, right? This new path. And it's followed by the Page of Pentacles, which is also the card, for me, of a new start. It's the card of knowing the value of something, right? And it seems like whatever it is that you're embarking on now, like you truly understand the value of it. You feel it very, very strongly. And this is kind of why you were kind of pushing so hard, this person that you needed to get on board. To get on board with the idea, because it's a good idea, right? It's got legs, it's going somewhere. You really believe in it. And I think kind of rightly so, actually, Aries, because not only are you showing up really, really strongly, but also in the manner of a new start. Not controlling and dictatorial like you might expect from the Emperor sometimes, right? That's his shadow side, his good side is strategic planning and all that kind of thing. Like this is a much more open, trusting energy, and it's almost like maybe the corners of this plan haven't yet fully formulated yet, but you're going with it because you sense how important it is. The Page of Pentacles is right at the bottom of the court hierarchy for the Pentacles suit. It is a new start, and he doesn't know everything yet. He doesn't have all of the information that he needs, but he's diligent enough and he will work through it well enough in order to kind of pick that up as he goes along. And I feel like that's the energy that you're in at the moment. This all doesn't have to be planned out in advance. You just need to move. And then we've got the King of Pentacles. Now this is quite interesting because this is quite different energy to you. This is slow moving. It's dependable, right? Not saying that you're not dependable, right? But sometimes, Aries, you can be a little bit flighty, right? Because you charge off ahead and you kind of forget about the details. But this is kind of working towards fleshing out your plan, because we've got progression from the Page to the King. And it's almost like as you've got the green light, so you're really now throwing yourself into, you know, the framework here that you're working within. How this is actually going to show up in the 3D world. Tell me about the King of Pentacles, please. Whoa. Whoa, shit. There's loads of cards going out there. I'm not taking all of those. Right. What about the King of Pentacles, please? So, 3 of Cups. Let's get one more for that. King of Pentacles. And the Knight of Pentacles. Right, now we've got the Page, we've got the Knight, and we've got the King, right? And what's come out to clarify is the 10 of Wands. Interesting. Card of Burden. The 3 of Cups, which for me talks about emotional kind of, your emotional support network, right? And then the Knight of Pentacles, which is about movement, right? Slow movement, yes, but progression, because we're progressing from the Page through the Knight to the King. And it's like, what is underpinning this King status in your current energy? Right, really getting on top of the planning and the nurturing of this idea, the fleshing out of this idea. Is kind of things now not being as difficult as they were, which is delightful, because I could see how much you would just like the, you know, goat headbutting things, right? It's a 10, so it's come to an end, right? The difficult bit is over. But then we've got people getting on board with you, right? We've got people kind of maybe coming out of the woodwork a little bit to support you in a way that you maybe didn't anticipate. But it's certainly helping you put the flesh on the bones of this thing, right? Finding the edges, finding the corners. And maybe you're getting people on board who can help. You know, they've just sort of popped out of the woodwork and like, I've heard you've had this really great idea. Like, I'd really like to be involved. Something like that. Now, yeah, it's very positive. Let's see what's coming towards you for the last 2 weeks of June. Oh, got 2 came out together there. Interesting. So we had 2 cards fly out together, and they are the Knight of Swords and the 5 of Swords. We've got the 6 of Wands, but it's sort of come out in a neutral position, right? As it fell onto my table, it fell like that, and I kind of paid a lot of attention to that sort of thing. So I'm going to pop it sideways like it is. It's like, it's almost like potential victory, right? Things are kind of delicate at the moment, right? And I would imagine it kind of depends on how you act this month as to whether this card reverses or whether it puts itself up straight. But currently it's sat in a neutral position. And then finally we've got the Star, which is the card of Aquarius. I like that actually for you. So the first 2 cards for what's coming towards you are the Knight of Swords and the 5 of Swords. Now, remember what I was just saying about Mercury retrograde, right? Because what this says to me here is somebody kind of rushing in really, really fast, and that's what the Knight of Swords does. Like, it's not a details kind of person, right? It's just getting there as fast as possible with the 5 of Swords. And it seems like either you or somebody else is kind of rushing in really, really hard, and what you've got then is a mismatch in communication, right? People are not on the same page. They don't really understand where the other person is going from, right? And this is what I was saying about the Mercury retrograde energy, is that sometimes that communication can be off because people assume that somebody knows a thing or that somebody understands a thing. So you get what I mean, right? And I see that this is quite important for you in the last 2 weeks. So whether that's you or someone else. It's something to be aware of, right? Because we've got this kind of neutral Six of Wands here, right? That it's almost like the way that you deal with this then dictates how this goes, right? Whether it comes out in the reverse or whether it comes out the right way up. The potential is there for it to go very, very well. The potential is also there for it to go very, very badly. So possibly if this is you kind of rushing at something, just pull it back a little bit, just slow down a little bit, think more of the detail of things, double check, triple check, right? And don't make assumptions that people understand what you are doing, where you are going with this, right? You know, be very clearly articulate everything. If this is other people, then there's possibly an aspect of it kind of putting your Aries nose out of joint a little bit, because this is somebody who is trying to keep up with you, you know, and the speed with which you like to work, because you're the first fire sign, and you're kind of charging away at the front, right? This is somebody kind of trying to keep up with you, but they're missing details along the way. So part of your job as a leader is to stop and make sure that everybody understands, like A, that you're in charge, but also B, you know, what all the details of the matter are, because I get the sense that they're missing them somewhere, either you or them missing. And that dictates which way this goes round. The final card that you've got for what's coming towards you is the Star, and I really, really like this because both of these cards speak to me about trust in something, in yourself, but also in something outside of yourself, right? Because this card is all about vision. Now, whereas this one doesn't really know where they're going, but they just kind of trust that they're on the right path. This is about the vision really, really making itself apparent, right? That guiding star is up in the sky. Like, you do not see that if you were looking down at your feet. This is about kind of lifting your eyes up and going, actually kind of seeing how this will work now, right? Now, the thing to remember about this is that not everybody has your ability to see that, right? Not everybody has your adventurous spirit, right? The taking time to stop and check in with people, right? Fill them in, give them the details. Not too many details, just enough of, details to keep them on board and keep them running with you. I'm just going to pull a clarifier for that because that's quite interesting. Tell me about the star. We've got the Eight of Swords, the Eight of Cups, and the Page of Cups. And this is quite interesting because I see that I can see this going a couple of different ways, actually. I can see that potentially that you might end up leaving people behind off the back of this, right? Because they just don't fucking get it and they're not on board, right? Kind of want to keep themselves stuck where they are and what they know, right? Which is very, very dull for Aries. We don't like that. So it might be that you end up having to leave them behind in order that you pursue this vision, whatever it is. Or it might be that there were one or two people who did not get on board with the idea initially, right? Who then come back to apologise for it, right? Come back and bring a cup and go, hey, I'm sorry, like I didn't really see where you were going with this, but now your vision is starting to, take some form. I kind of get it, and you were right and I was wrong, and I would love to be involved, or I would love to support you while you create this thing. Either way, it works out very, very well for you, Aries, because if they're not on board, then they just need to fucking go because they're in the way. If they're ready to come back with a mea culpa, then just be gracious about it, let it come in. So let's get you some cards of advice. 3 cards of advice for Aries, please. That's the first one. And 2. One more for Aries, please. That's interesting. So the first card that you've got is the Six of Pentacles. That's about balance, right? Maintaining the correct balance. And for you, I feel like it is checks and balances more than anything else, right? With people, with details, you know, with words, with contracts, all that sort of thing. Checks and balances. Always go back second time, third time even. And don't necessarily rely on other people to be as thorough as you can be when you've got to be in your bonnet about something, right? Those checks are important for you to go back and do, because ultimately you are taking responsibility for all of this stuff, right? Then we've got the Two of Swords and Judgment. And this is quite an interesting combination, because the Two of Swords is about making intellectual decisions, right? But it always makes me uneasy that the character is blindfolded. I don't like that about it, because that's a willful blinding to a situation. And maybe it's asking you not to be willfully blind to a situation, right? That requires strong judgment from you, right? See, the other thing that this card indicates, right, is usually it's got the character, the main character of the card, with their back to the water and their back to the moon. So their emotions and their intuition and stuff like that. It's making purely logical decisions, hence the blindfold, right? It's all up here. But it's clarified by the Ace of Cups, right? And the Ace of Cups can be new love, or a renewal of love for something, right? But not necessarily in a romantic sense. You know, it's kind of like emotional bond sort of thing. But it also talks about forgiveness and compassion. And maybe it's asking you not to be blind to the possibility that forgiveness and compassion can actually get you quite a long way. Like, you're a fire sign, you've got a fairly swift temper, but you're not unreasonable to things. Right? And the fixed signs, when they turn their back on things, they really, really fucking turn their back on things, and they're not coming here. But they tend to put up with a lot until they get to that point. Aries, you can kind of spin on a sixpence sometimes. Yeah, lose your temper, fire up, you know. Just because it's happened, don't necessarily think that you cannot come back from it. And issue forgiveness and compassion where necessary, if somebody has irked you, if somebody has crossed you, right? That shows good judgment. It shows really good judgment, because we've got the Four of Wands here, right? This is my home card, but it's also the card of celebration. It's people working together. It's people coming together to celebrate a thing, right? And people fuck up. Humans fuck up. It's what we do. But it seems like the harmony and peace, right? And celebration and joy and all those kind of things that the Four of Wands indicates here, right? It kind of pivots on your ability to kind of be the grown-up about the situation and, you know, be the bigger person. And then we've got the Tower. Now that's quite interesting, because that is, for me, a card of Scorpio, but it can sometimes be a card of Aries as well. And it's about sudden shocking sudden shocking events or information coming to light, right? You know, it's the idea is that this tower is built, and it just takes one good lightning strike to just kind of reveal how it's either been poorly built or poorly maintained, right? And the idea is, in the aftermath of this, you can then rebuild something that is better. Now, maybe this relates to what it is that you're doing, what it is that you're working on, this kind of revolutionary idea of a way of looking at things that might have actually been towers, right? They might have existed for quite a long time in a format that everybody understands, and what you're doing is so disruptive to what people understand that you're going to have to accept that not everybody is going to go along with it initially, right? Not everybody is going to understand your vision initially, right? And that's how fuck tower. Right. It's what a funny combination of cards. We've got the Chariot at the bottom of the deck, right? You know how to move forwards with this, right? All of your energy is in alignment. You're ready for victory, right? You're headed off in a straight line without question, right? There you are underneath the Queen of Wands, right? Card of Aries. You are absolutely certain on your path, and Aries, I think that you're right. But these cards that have come up for the Tower, give this funny combination. The Sun, the most positive card in the deck, sometimes talks about children as well, right? They might be involved. Then we've got the card of a broken heart. Now, that can manifest itself in all sorts of different ways, because sometimes it can be off the back of a relationship that's broken down, but that's not relevant here. That's not what's going on here. It could be that it's dealing with the fact that people have not seen what you can see. They're not prepared to walk the path behind you that you were walking, right? That's possible. But it also could talk to the like a kind of ego denting, actually, right? And kind of cautioning you to just be free, let that go. Don't hold it too hard. Don't hold really hard judgment about it, right? Just kind of let it wash over you, because it's not actually personal. It's not about you. A lot of the times when people kind of clash with you on things, it's because they can't see where you're going, right? And they kind of envy your ability to step up and just go, right? You don't know where you're going, but you're just going to go. It's something that other signs don't really understand, and it kind of makes them feel a little bit uncomfortable. Sometimes it makes them kind of envious as well. And so where they're trying to pull you down, it kind of says more about them than it says about you. Right? Don't sit in too harsh a judgment of anybody who kind of attacks your ego like that, right? Just be nice and pure and fiery and sunny and all those wonderful things, right? Because they'll get there eventually. They'll understand eventually. They don't need to understand now, for the most part, to be honest, because that's why you're there. That's why you've got your machete out and you're hacking through the jungle so that these people can then follow you. But the Tower is also a course correction. And I feel like the advice here is also saying, don't be so rigid in your thinking that that you think the only way to do things is the way that you do them. It could be that there is the stuff that's coming in that actually would be quite useful, that slightly changes, the direction that you were going to take. Be open to it. Be always objective to it. For you, it feels like it's an idea, and it's the presentation of the idea in the 3D that you're kind of hitting now. But the important thing is the idea, not necessarily how it manifests out in the 3D world. And maybe just an offhand comment that somebody makes, right? Kind of change the way that you see it. Don't stick to it just because it was the plan that you made. You can correct, right? That's true leadership on the back of new information. So I'm going to leave it there, Aries. If you are still stuck with trying to get somebody on board with an idea, then go back and have a look at the mid-month reading. Not the mid-month, the reading for the beginning of the month, and there is an extended to that. Because time is fluid and these things kind of overlap, and this might run into July a little bit, or you might have already experienced it. I'm going to see what it is. But other than that, take care, and I'll see you soon.